You see? Good evening. I'm just waiting 1 minute for everyone to join us. We have some attendees already here, but I'm just giving it right to the end. Now we're on 7 o'clock and I am determined to run this seminar on time. Good evening. My name is Sue Delahunty. Welcome to FTA's seminar to discuss business protection. And thank you so much for attending on an evening when England is playing in the Euros. We are very conscious that some of you may wish to finish early, make yourself a cup of tea and comfortable in front of the TV. And I can promise you we will be done by 7:45, assuming we can answer all of your questions in a timely fashion. My name's Sue Delahunty. As I said before, I'm one of the directors of FTA Wealth here, based in Bournemouth and in Brookman's Park, and travelling all over the country, seeing you, looking after you and protecting your businesses. So the subjects that we're going to cover tonight include the core concepts of business protection. So that's protecting your business and why you all need it. The different types of business protection that there are available for your business, and a spotlight on executive income protection. That's a new style product. You probably all know what income protection is, but you are, I am sure, much more used to personal income protection. Our guest speaker, Danny Fisher, is here from Liverpool, Victoria, which is a market leader in this type of business. Strategies of mitigating risks to your business, which I'm sure you'll find useful. Understanding succession planning and key person insurance, covering the key individuals in your company. How to put those plans of action into practice. And also business trusts and how to write those into your will, or to start exploring the options of whether or not you should be putting your business into your will in a specific way. And last but not least, commercial powers of attorney. Someone to act for you if you're unable to act due to accident, illness or incapacity. I'm going to introduce my colleague, Eponine Littlejohns. Eponine is in charge of our protection department here at FTA, and Eponine will take you through the next part of the seminar.
Thank you for the introduction, Sue. Really appreciate it. And thank you all for your time this evening. So we're going to be discussing this topic, and that is mastering business protection and really looking at its core concepts. So I've got some questions on the screen, which you can all think about, but I think it's important to state that the importance of business protection is quite often overlooked. It's so important because it helps business owners plan for the unexpected by providing cover to ensure the business can continue with minimal disruption following the loss of one of their key employees or one of the business owners through death, a critical illness, or temporary or permanent disablement. And unfortunately, our health and well-being are not something that we can always predict, as we've discussed in the other webinars in this series. So when we think of key individuals in a business, let's take, for example, perhaps a dental practice or a pharmacy, or in fact, any business. Perhaps let's run through a list of the different key individuals that we might want to protect. So firstly, we'd have the business owners or shareholders of the company. Most of our clients who we speak to are business owners, and perhaps you have set up a limited company with a business partner, maybe your brother, or maybe sister, or maybe spouse. It's important to consider where the shares of your business partner would go if something were to happen to them. Would you want to be in business with your sister's husband or wife? Without adequate protection, should I say, this could end up being a reality. Then we have perhaps the practice or pharmacy manager. Perhaps you have one in mind working for you that brings in a large percentage of the gross profit generated into the business. Perhaps you want to protect your business if they were to get sick or were to pass away so that you could pay for a replacement or boost profits while they were off work. And then we look perhaps at your business premises. Perhaps you have a practice or shop which you've taken a loan on. And if for some reason something were to happen to you as one of the business owners, how would you repay the loan? And then you've got your own personal protection needs. I'm sure many of you out there are heads of families or thinking about starting a family in the future. As a company director or an employee of a company, relevant life insurance with significant illness cover can be set up so that your personal protection is paid for by your business, but the benefits go to you and your family when needed. And then we have perhaps a key individual who is self employed, perhaps an associate dentist. And in this case, you may want some form of locum cover to protect you in this instance. All these situations can be covered with business protection. And not only are you protecting your business, but there's also benefits to your business. And these include tax efficient premiums. So most business protection policies are considered tax deductible expenses. And then you have the fact that the benefits are paid to the business, so they don't affect your personal inheritance tax liability. And then, of course, they reduce business disruption. Trade continues, and your clients aren't less dissatisfied. They also benefit you as a business owner because protection policies like this can make sure that in difficult times, your role and business stays under control and well managed to make sure that the business keeps running and profits keep coming in. So now we're going to have a look at the different type of protection policies available to a business. First off, we have business loan protection. Now, most of you have probably come across this before, and perhaps you might have even spoken to myself, Sue, about it in the past. And this is designed to obviously protect mainly the bank if you were to take a loan, but also to protect a business partner as well. So they are not left in the position where they have to pay off a large liability if anything were to happen to you. And this is perhaps when you're starting up, you know, when you first look to buy a practice, or maybe you need it later on when you're refinancing or buying shares in a pharmacy, for example. And this is probably one of the most common clients we deal with. What's not so common are the later ones, and these are probably the more important ones as well. We have key person cover. So this is designed to cover a key employee of the business that contributes net profits to the company. You can protect this person's life with either life insurance and critical illness cover, and the policy is owned and paid for by the business. This policy is set up as a tax deductible expense, however, there may be some taxation on the benefits received. And then we have shareholder protection. So this is primarily to protect you as business owners. It's designed so that you're able to buy out your fellow shareholders' shares in business upon their death, so that you're not left in the awkward position where you have to go into business with your fellow shareholders' family. And we then have relevant life insurance. This is personal protection, as I mentioned before, paid for and owned by your business. And it's probably the most tax efficient form of business protection. As an employee of the business, you can have the cover set up on your behalf and the business pays for this. However, the benefits then go in trust so that it benefits either you on a significant illness basis or your family upon death. And then we have business health insurance. So this is private medical insurance arranged by your business, and you can choose just to cover you as the business owner and your family, or you can also choose to cover your employees. And we have a whole separate webinar all about private medical insurance. So if you'd like to watch this, please request a copy of the link at the end of this webinar, and I'd be more than happy to provide it. And finally, perhaps we have a slightly different form of business protection, and one that is definitely less well known, and this is executive income protection. And for this topic, I'm delighted to introduce our guest speaker, Danny Fisher from LV. This is just one of the providers we work with from the whole of market, and definitely I have to say the leader in executive IP. Danny, could you take us through this topic, please?
Thank you very much, Eponine. So I come from LV and we work very closely with FTA, with Eponine and Sue, and I support them with all their business protection needs, but executive income protection. So how can we talk to you and help you to understand what this can do for you? So are you a company director, for example? Do you have key employees that you would like to help get back to work? So this is an accident and illness cover. You don't have to meet a definition. It's own occupation, which does mean that anything at all that takes you off work longer than your deferred period will be covered. So your employees will be covered, and it can be any employee as long as they are an employee. Would you also like an income protection scheme that protects your pension contributions? So the pensions contributions and the national insurance contributions as well. So that's where the differences come in. With a business executive income protection, you can also cover 80% of your gross income, as opposed to with a personal income protection, it's only 60%. Now, going through the business, that will be paid through PAYE back through the business, which is why it's a higher amount that we do give as a benefit. Obviously, if you do take out personal income protection, that is paid tax-free to you, and it's coming from your own pocket, which is why we cover 60% of the gross income, and it's actually taken out themselves. So with executive IP, it's tax efficient for the business and the individual. The premiums are tax deductible for the company, and the employee pays P11D. Benefits paid through PAYE, as I said before, so it goes back through the business and your employees will be covered. So if you are interested in talking about executive IP, Eponine and Sue are more than happy to go through that with you and help with your understanding. And then hopefully you'll choose LV with their number of benefits that come with that as well, value added services, and we really look forward to speaking to you further. So I'll just pass back to Eponine and she'll take you on through the rest of the webinar.
Thank you so much for taking us through that, Danny. I really appreciate that. And I have to say, with executive income protection, it's definitely something becoming more popular. A lot of our clients already have income protection, but we're seeing a shift, especially in the dental and pharmacy market, where previously maybe you've worked as sole traders or partnerships, where you're now working as limited companies, and this can be a great benefit to you. So we're now going to have a look at really looking at the risks that are involved. And I thought we could do this by looking at a case study. So we're going to talk about Mr. Fadden. So he's a long-term client of ours who's had a successful career in the public sector. He also runs a private sector company as well with his business partner, which he's built from scratch over a period of 5 years. He is now 62 years old and lives in Surrey with his young twins aged 10 who are being privately educated. He is recently divorced. The shares are owned 50% between Mr. Fadden and his business partner, and the company makes a profit of around about 200,000 per year. So the problem is, whilst Mr. Fadden and his business partner have solid personal financial plans already in place, complete with life cover, critical illness cover, and income protection, the business did not have any insurance. This meant that if either party were to become ill or were to pass away, the business would suffer financially in 2 ways. Firstly, with the direct loss of an earning shareholder, and secondly, the remaining founder would be running the business full-time and therefore have less time to generate income. Mr. Fadden also wanted to make sure that his children would be well looked after if he died early. Without insurance, they'd have to wait until their 18th birthday to be granted ownership of the shares. So he was keen to get the value of shares set up as a cash benefit for his twins if he were to die early. So he wanted to make sure the business was able to survive if him or his business partner passed away. He also wanted to put a plan in place to relieve loved ones from the pressure of inheriting a business. He also wanted to make sure his business partner's family would be well looked after in the event of death, and he wanted to ensure that financial arrangements were put in place to allow the surviving business partner to buy the shares from the deceased estate. So when it came to a solution, we ended up speaking to both business partners, and they were both eager to agree some form of solution. So they had a valuation of the business. It ended up being worth about 1.35 million. And to ensure that the surviving partner has the right to buy the remaining shares of the deceased estate, it was really important that we had this valuation so we could get the correct value of the shares. Therefore, we put shareholder protection in place for both partners with the sum assured of half that amount, 517,500 each. The policies were written into trust so it would benefit the other business partner. And given their age, it was really important that they both had renewable term policies, which allowed the policy to be extended after the 5-year initial term period without having to re-qualify for new coverage. And we agreed to review this value of the business each year to ensure the sum assured was the correct amount, because we know this is an ever fluctuating thing. And what this allowed him to do is it allowed him to have peace of mind. He was really concerned about what would happen if he were to pass away. He'd come into business later on in life, and therefore he really wanted to make sure that he could protect himself, his business partner, and his family. And he now has the peace of mind if anything were to happen to him, that he would be in the place where his business partner could just buy out his family's shares, they would receive some cash, and the business could keep going under just one business partner. But like we said earlier, there's going to be an impact of loss of earning as well. And this is kind of where a key employee comes. If you don't insure your key employees, it can leave the business without vital skills or knowledge, and there could be an expensive recruitment cost or a need to replenish profits. And this is where perhaps a shareholder protection policy with key person cover could really, really work hand in hand. And I think it's really important at looking at your business in an objective manner, because none of us like to think that we're going to pass away or get seriously ill one day. We want to think we're going on forever. But it's important to think about the risks that are in place and how we can mitigate them with getting the right cover in place. And Sue, I would now like to pass it over to you to discuss the remaining topics of this webinar.
Thank you, Eponine. So, understanding key man insurance or key person insurance. Sorry, slip of the tongue. I am old enough to remember when it was called key man insurance, and now it's known as key person insurance. And that's insurance for key individuals. And as Eponine has rightly highlighted, that could be someone like the practice manager or someone that runs the pharmacy for you, or any other business that you might decide to name. Basically, it's why do you need it? Who should we cover? How much should they be covered for? What would the impact be if they were unable to attend work or be the key person that they normally are? So therefore, why do I want to protect my business? Consider these questions. Can I make my personal protection more tax efficient by putting my policies through my business, which is what Danny covered? How can I keep my customers happy if I have to be off work, or a key individual, again, has to be off work, sick, or for another reason for a long time? Questions like this will help you to plan your business future and get things right. And Eponine and I and the rest of the team here at FTA would be more than happy to take you through what would be particularly a bespoke solution for you, because basically everyone is different and your priorities will be different. Now, questions like this lead me to the last subject, which is my own personal speciality, which is making sure that your business is properly reflected in your will. First of all, can I just ask you, have you made a will? Because 50% of you will not have made a will. I guarantee you that. And it might even be more amongst you busy business individuals. And if you did make a will, was that 25 years ago, 30 years ago, before you got married, before you got divorced? Because if it was before you got married or got divorced, it's null and void. Two things will negate a will. One will be marriage, the other will be divorce. So if that's happened in the last few years, you need to talk to me. However, there are some real key advantages in having a business written will. So talking to a business advisor who understands how to write a will around your business. And I refer to business property relief, which is a huge benefit that some of us don't really even know about, and at the moment is available to us business owners. And it means that you will be able to class your business assets under certain criteria as either 100% free of IHT or 50% free of IHT, depending on those assets. And I can give you more advice if you want to contact me. There's also things like if you leave your money to your spouse, then obviously you're exempt from IHT. And business property relief can carry on to benefit further generations by holding either the business itself or the sale proceeds of the business in a special trust in your will. Now, just ask yourself a question. Would your wife, husband, or children want to carry on owning your business and running it? If they want to turn it into cash at some stage before they pass away themselves, that cash could be held and continue to be held in your trust, with you being able to use the trust, of course, and to benefit from it, but literally ring-fenced away from IHT. The trust is its own legal entity and will own the business or the business assets or the cash that comes from the sale of the business assets, and therefore is not subject to financial predators such as bankruptcy courts or long-term care fees or divorce courts. And this is all so important when it's your hard-earned and hard-won business assets we're talking about. I next want to discuss making a power of attorney. Now, most people know about these, usually from being power of attorney to their mother, father, granny, granddad, but not for us younger people. I don't know why I'm including myself in that because I'm getting on. But basically, if you're running a business, you need to have an adequate, if you like, reserve that could step in for you and act in your stead financially should something happen to you. For example, you're away for a period of time abroad or on business, or you were to have an accident, you were in a coma, or had a medical condition like cancer and had to have treatment that incapacitated you for a temporary period of time, a heart attack or COVID, or even if you lost your mental capacity due to head injury or something different, MND, MS, those sorts of things. So basically, this is where you will give the authority to someone else to act for you. You might think to yourself, I will just use someone in my family. And there are good reasons for me to suggest that that's not necessarily the way to go. So to avoid disruption in your business, you should consider appointing someone who would be your attorney. Otherwise, your business is very vulnerable and at risk. So please don't leave it that way. Appoint that person to make those business decisions. I'm going to hand you over at this stage to Eponine to close our seminar. Thank you so much for listening this evening. Eponine, over to you.
So you may be thinking, perhaps this is a little bit shorter than we usually do our seminars. And there is more of a reason behind this than just having the Euros on. And that is because we want to speak to you. We want to have an appointment. Perhaps you've already spoken to us already. Maybe you've spoken, like I said, when you've had your business loan, or maybe you've discussed doing shareholder protection with us. But what we really want to do is we want to sit down with you, perhaps your business partner, and talk about how we can protect your business. We'll run through, we'll look at perhaps who the key employees are of that business, maybe ways of making your personal cover a bit more tax efficient through relevant life insurance and executive income protection. But we hope that you come away from this webinar and you're able to look at maybe the risks that there are involved. Maybe you might think, okay, this is not what I need now. I've just set up my business. However, when I plan to expand it, I'm going to need a key employee cover for this shop that I run or this practice that I run. There's so many different ways that we can look to protect your business, and we don't want it to be the overlooked insurance anymore. We want it to be the one that ends up being the one we talk about the most, because it is where our passion is, because we do look after business owners. So you can see on the screen, there is Sue's contact details and my contact details and our phone number. Please do get in touch. Have a consultation. We can have it on Zoom if you prefer it face to face. We can have it over the phone, or if you're local, you can come and see us in our office, and that's in Westbourne in Bournemouth. But really, we want to say thank you. Thank you for letting us talk about this really important subject. Talking about what business protection is, why we need it, the different types available to your business. We then had obviously a really enjoyable presentation from Danny about executive income protection. And then we've looked at the risks involved, maybe succession planning and key person insurance. Have you thought about who might be the next key person in your business? And maybe looking at these plans, what practical steps can you do now and take away from this webinar? And then business trusts and how they protect you. And of course, finally, as Sue just mentioned, commercial lasting powers of attorney. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing the screen at this point, and I'm going to see if we've got any questions in our chat box. And perhaps I might need to call back either Sue or Danny for any of these questions. So I'm just having a look now, and I think perhaps this first one is more applicable to you, Sue. So the questions come in, and it says, my spouse and I are 50-50 shareholders and directors in my business. Surely I don't need a lasting power of attorney.
You would think not. And I understand why someone would ask that. And thank you for asking that question. I really appreciate it. It's actually really completely unknown that if you own a house together, for example, and you want to sell it and one of you is taken ill and in a coma, you cannot act on behalf of the other person. So something jointly owned, you'd need both parties to sign. It's really only very small financial transactions that you have on a joint basis that you can have either signature. Something big like selling or managing or arranging a business transaction. If your business was subject to an uncompleted sale, for example, and one of you was taken sick, the other one cannot sell the business. And the whole thing will be subject to a court procedure if it couldn't be resolved. So make that simple for yourself. Unfortunately, you can't act instead of your spouse. And we are all individuals, and I'm sort of pretty glad of that really both of you get consulted and both of you get involved. So make your spouse, by all means, your attorney, and then you won't have that issue. Thanks, Eponine.
No, that's really interesting. I appreciate that, Sue. I didn't actually know that until today either. I heard Sue speaking about it in our office just today with one of our clients. And it is really important to think about that because you don't want your business to stop running in that situation. Now, I'm just having a look in the chat box, and I think there's perhaps one for Danny. Perhaps I could invite you back. I know you're obviously just visiting us today, and we've really appreciated you coming in. One of our clients have just asked, how are they planning to decide which income protection is better for them?
Yeah, that's a really good question as well, Eponine, because you really want to set it all out so that you know exactly which one of those options is better for you. So I would recommend that they speak to you. You go through looking at each of the products because each individual could have different situation, different scenarios. So I would say you're the professionals to actually speak to and give them a really, really high level of advice, definitely.
No, I really appreciate that, and thank you. And please do feel free to book in. And just asking, Danny, obviously you've been in the industry for a while. Have you found that executive income protection is becoming more popular over personal?
So much more. I think that the thing is people don't actually know about it. So it's webinars like this, it's getting it out there and really gaining people's understanding with the help of you and other advisors to actually give people that knowledge, and also case studies as well, and looking at the claims history. And it's just really interesting. But definitely over the past couple of years, I would say it's got more and more.
I have to say, it's interesting you say that. So I've worked in the protection industry now since I was 17, and I joined FTA just over a year ago now. And it actually wasn't until I joined FTA that I'd heard of executive income protection. And it was through training through Sue and through Danny that really helped me to gain a better understanding. And it really is a wonderful product. So if you do have a bit of personal income protection scratching around, please do let us have a look at it. It might be that it's still the best option for you. However, quite often, and we've seen a shift recently in the last couple of months, we've been able to take a person's personal income protection and move them over to executive income protection so that they can have the benefits of having their pension covered and their national insurance contributions. These are all things that people like to have covered. You know, we want to get the most benefits from our policy. So, really appreciate your help with that one today, Danny. And I think just finally, there's perhaps a question in there for myself, and it's just about relevant life insurance I can see, and obviously just whether they could find out a bit more about that. Now, I think it would be good, you know who you are, if we could get an appointment together to discuss that. But obviously, relevant life insurance is something that is very close to my heart because it's a wonderful way of protecting yourself. It used to be that only life insurance could be set up on a relevant basis. And this is obviously where the company pay for the policy, but you put it into trust so it benefits your family personally. Now, we've done it in the past where, due to certain taxation principles, we've had to split the cover and start them on different days to prevent certain, you know, inheritance tax issues. But there are always workarounds for that. But in the recent times, and this is something I'm so pleased about, one of the providers on the market does offer significant illness cover. It's not quite the same as critical illness cover. However, it still gives you a lot of the conditions that you would be covered on a critical illness basis. And this is also a benefit that you benefit from personally, but is paid through by your business. So if you have any personal life insurance, any personal critical illness cover, please do get in touch, because quite often, even if there's a slight price increase initially, the tax relief that you get on it ends up balancing this out. So it really is a wonderful benefit. And I think perhaps something that, again, with executive income protection, we need to educate more people on it, because it's definitely not being used as well as possible. And it's something that we use for a lot of our clients nowadays. So yeah, please do get in touch with regards to that.
I've come back on just to say thank you again and to conclude our seminar. That appears to be the last of the questions. Thank you so much for making them so interesting. And we look forward to any more questions you might have, which you may want to pose to us on a personal basis. We wish you a very nice evening. I hope you enjoy the football. I know that I'm going to drive home from here and sit in front of the TV in the next half an hour. And I think Danny's quite a football fan as well. Eponine, are you going to watch the football?
I'm not really
She's
a
not
football
really a
person,
fan.
sorry.
That's 2 out of 3. Anyway, have a good evening. Thank you so much. And anyone who is interested in passing on this seminar to a friend or someone that they work with, we are happy to send a recording. So please let us know if we can help you with that. Thank you very much for attending, and good night.